Every 40 seconds, someone in the world takes away their own life. 75% of these cases are from low and middle income countries. In fact, approximately 1.3% deaths in 2019 were due to suicide. However, suicide is often preventable if timely help is sought. 10th of September is observed as World Suicide Prevention Day, and this is a day which is dedicated to raising awareness of suicide and to promote prevention measures as well, with an aim to reduce suicides globally. Pandemic, of course, has had its impact on these numbers going up as well, something which we truly do not understand in terms of absolute numbers just yet. The theme for this year's suicide prevention is creating hope through action. And that's exactly is the focus on FYI today as well. Welcome, I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Let's start with our explainer. Well, WHO has gone ahead to say that India has the highest suicide rate in Southeast Asia. 2019, the average of 381 suicide cases reported daily, and also the suicide rate increased by 3.4% as compared to 2018. 50% of these cases were from these 5 states: Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, MP and even Karnataka. For every 100 suicide deaths, 70.2 were male and 29.8 were female. The number of males taking away their life significantly more than the females at this point. All this is, of course, the government data NCRB at this point. Studies also show that suicide is leading cause of death amongst 15 to 29-year-olds in India. 15 to 29. Let that age sink in. The leading cause of death in this age group is suicide. The annual suicide data actually shows an upward trend. 2016, 131,000. Approximately 2017, 129,000. 2018 went up to a couple of thousand. 2019 went up again. All this is reported, remember. The worry with these cases is that a lot of these numbers go unreported as well. We looked at cities then in India, which are, hate to say the word suicide hubs, but places which are reporting maximum cases. Chennai, Delhi, Bengaluru, Mumbai. 36.6% of the total suicides coming in from 53 cities. And again, this is a number going up. Also remember, while metros continue to show an upward swing in suicide numbers, it is also because often in these centers the reporting happens more. Suicide rates in India 2019, cities were about 13.9%, all India figure was 10.4%. Then we looked at age group, which are said to be the most vulnerable age groups, which are seen as those who need urgent intervention, let's put it that way. Well, again, according to the NCRB data, this remains to be the 18 to 30 years of age group. The young in the country, the future of the country, this is the time people are building careers, getting into a family life, resorting to career change, etc., looking for jobs as well. So this crucial time between 18 to 30 is said to be the most vulnerable. Also, the pandemic impact, well, the thing to remember here is that the absolute numbers for 2020, 2021 haven't come in yet, but the understanding is that it will only have escalated due to what all of us faced during the pandemic as well. Suicide attempted, in fact, reported in English news channels increased. We didn't have absolute numbers, so we looked at reported figures at this point, reported in the media, that is. 67.7% in 2020 as compared to 2019. That's how much it went up. It could be because there was more reporting taking place. We don't know that for sure, but that's clearly an indicator of how much the numbers have gone up post-pandemic. Also, from 220 reports in 2019, suicide reports in English channel increased to 369. Also, compared to 2019, more suicides were reported during the lockdown, whereby older and even employed men were taking their lives. Bihar showed a 7-fold increase in news reports of suicide in 2020 as compared to 2019. All this is the data, like we said, not absolute numbers, but the reports that are coming in. Major causes of suicide. We try to look at that and understand what are the trigger points here, and look at that chart over there. Family problems contribute to about 32.4%. Illness is 17.1%. Drug abuse 5.6%. Marriage and related issues are 5.5%. Others 39.4%. What we don't have here is a breakup of job-related issues, etc., which again is something that is not available as a separate subhead when it comes to the NCRB data. All right, so on the program today, we have got for you some warning signals. If you know somebody in your house, in your friend circle, family circle, who is showing these following signs, please be aware that they do need urgent intervention. What should really tick you off then? Talking or researching about how to hurt oneself. Withdrawing from social contact, mood swings, for example. Preoccupation with death, substance abuse, changes in appetite and sleep patterns. This goes unnoticed so many times that experts more and more say that one must look into. These are the people who are very quietly not being able to call out for help but need it urgently. Indulging in risky or self-destructive behavior as well should be a sign for you to know that something is not right and this person needs help. And how can you help them? Someone who's feeling suicidal? Well, first thing, get help of an expert. We are also, as we bring you this broadcast, getting out constant numbers that you can also reach out to. And if you know anybody who needs help, or if you yourself need help, please reach out to these people who are listening on the other side. So that's number one, get urgent intervention. You see those numbers of various foundations who are helping in this, and you can easily contact them as well. Their phone lines are open. These numbers, just to give you a perspective of people who are willing to listen to you, willing to get help to you, has only increased in the pandemic. So there are more people listening in right now. After you have got them in touch with an expert, with somebody who actually knows clinically what is to be done over here, all you can do as family, as friends, as neighbors is just listen. Listen them out, let them pour their heart out. Extend concern in a timely manner. Don't brush off their problems. Don't say, oh, this is nothing, your don't belittle their issues or problems. That also is advised by experts. Know that what is simple for you is hard for them. Try and sensitize yourself to the problems they might be facing. Empathize with them as well. Let them know that you're there, and then also encourage them mostly to get help from a professional. All right, having understood that, we've got a panel dedicated to doing exactly what I've just told you. Talking to people, encouraging them to do the right thing, and like this year's message is, and the tagline for this year's suicide prevention is hope. So let's talk about the message of hope over here. Joining us today is Dr. Gopinath. Dr. Desai is with us, and Tri Majumdar is also with us, senior clinical psychologist at Your Dost. Let me begin with Dr. Desai at this point. Dr. Desai, as I look at the figures and the explainer that I just put out for our viewers as well, perhaps the most worrying thing for us also while researching this was the age bracket. 19 to 30, I mean, these are supposed to be people who are high on energy, who are looking out for jobs, who are looking out for partners, who are just out of college or making a career or just starting out in life. It really shook me that this is the age bracket which is most vulnerable to suicides.
Yes. So among the many good things that you and your report said, one was high rate in young adults. That's a significant problem. It also is that, like you said, most people now believe that these young adults who are doing well, who are high on energy, are not vulnerable. People in that age group
Dr. Desai, I have some issue with your audio. Let me just fix that up. And while we do that, let me go to Dr. Gopinath. Dr. Gopinath, same question to you really to try and understand why this age bracket is said to be most vulnerable. What are the trigger points then? It's important for parents watching this, friends watching this right now to also take note of this and say that this is the age group that needs attention, that needs a lot of care.
Yes. So this is an age group which is more vulnerable at this point in time because of the change or difference in the psychosocial context outside. First of all, when we look at the pandemic right now, because of this situation where there is uncertainty, unpredictability outside, there is a tendency for them to get into a tunnel-like process where, because of the emotions, when you go through a tunnel, what happens? Your vision is limited. You have only one exit outside. And more than that, nowadays, if you see that the population, the younger population, their frustration tolerance is very less. Because whatever they want, they're getting very easily outside, right? Say, for example, if they want to shop something also, they don't need to go out. Everything is delivered at home. The same way, the kind of social media where they are involved in and the kind of the games they are in. Previously, it was constructive. The games were more constructive in nature. But the kind of games which they have right now is more destructive in nature. How many people they are able to attack and kill in one particular level, which will enable them to go to the next level. So these are the kind of exposure they have at this point in time. Upon that, we need to also understand there are certain psychological issues or psychiatric issues which makes them more vulnerable. Say, for example, depression is one among them, certain personality issues which can make them vulnerable, and also substance abuse, which is also kind of higher in that particular age group. Most of the time, in our family, if you look at, almost all of them are busy with their mobile phones and social media sites. The time spent on screen is kind of increased. So what happens most of the time, the family do not observe them properly. They miss out these kind of signs. The first thing, as a family, we need to understand, as a social being, we need to understand, is there any change in the person whom we are contacting on a regular day or interacting with on a regular day? Is there any subtle changes? Closely observe them, try to understand, talk to them. Then we will be able to closely find out what's going on in that particular individual.
All right. So what I took away from what you've said, Dr. Gopinath, is that young adults who have just stepped out of college and their comfort zone, and these are people who are just facing reality of life on how it is to be on your own in the world, really, outside your circle, outside your closed, safe space. And then people who, and this is a generation which built a lot of instant gratification on social media. Exactly. Those are some of the things that I've picked up from you. Ma'am, if I can come to you next on, then how do we look at these people? Is this a generational shift that we are talking about over here? Is this something that you've seen in the past? Or this is a Gen Z syndrome?
I think that's an excellent question. I don't know necessarily if we can say it's a generational shift, right? I do think that mental illness and the lack of mental or emotional well-being existed even before Gen Z came to be, right? It's a lot of it has to do with, like we talked about initially, that, you know, the reporting has definitely increased now. The way it's being looked at has shifted as well. So there are, on the one hand, a lot many more people seeking help. There are also a lot many more conversations happening about mental health and about trying to remove the stigma associated with suicide as well. So there's definitely a lot more focus. Having said that, I do feel that the pressure to perform, the pressure to be a certain kind of person, whether it's on social media, whether it's in your personal life, right, within your family as well, has also shifted dramatically. And I think that creates a different space for young people today to not have a lot of options, right, or to see suicide as one of the only options they are left with. And I think that's shifted the perspective that young people also have towards choosing suicide as a modality rather than reaching out and seeking help.
Why do you say that this is the only option that's left with? Is this lack of communication? Is this having lots of friends but no one true friend? Is it having a great rapport with folks at home, with your siblings and parents, but not truly telling them how you're feeling? not sharing your vulnerabilities?
I think it's more about seeing it as the only option. I'm not necessarily sure that it's always the only option, but I do feel that there are also gaps in communication, right? Even when we look at, when we looked at the NCRB numbers, a lot of it comes from having family issues, right? And I think that's something that we often see with the young people that we also work with, that there are concerns within the family, and that communication, while on the surface it might look like we have an amazing rapport, the channels of communication, right, might not always be open. And there's always a lot of judgment towards what's right and what's wrong, especially for, I think, what the young people face with regards to in terms of what they can do and what they can't, or what they should be doing, right? There's a lot of criteria that they have to live up to or match up to constantly.
All right, so lots of important points that you've mentioned as well. Let me quickly slip into a break. When I come back, I want to talk about solutions. What is it that needs to change in upbringing? What is it that needs to change in conversations inside your home, your friend circle, your neighborhood that can prevent this? That's coming up on the other side. Welcome back. On FYI today, our focus is on suicide prevention, and we're talking solutions here today. How to spot early signs is what we told you earlier on. But is there a systemic change in which we need to bring up kids? Is there a change in which we need to be speaking to these young adults as well? That is what I want to focus on next. And let me go to Dr. Gopinath back on this one as well, please.
Yes, I think this is a huge step which we need to take in our societal level itself. We need to break the stigma, where we need to educate the mass, so that we can start openly talking about mental health in our society, so that we can talk openly about what we feel, what we think about within our family system. That is where we need to start.
I thought we had walked a huge step in this direction during the pandemic. I thought we all learned to speak our mind out and grieve. We're all still grieving, a lot of us in that space. I thought we became better.
It's better, but we have a lot more to go, right, in that particular setting. A country like India, where it's still stigmatized, right? So that, we can increase our help-seeking behavior. That is what we need to look for right now.
Okay.
So asking for help is my right. That everyone should understand that. We need to reach that side. We need to reach there. So we need to start with open communication process in our society, in our family, in our network, so that I can openly talk about what I feel to my family members without getting judged, feeling of judged.
Mehrotra, can I come to you next and say somebody is finding it difficult, and I don't want to put the onus on somebody who's already suffering. What is it that people around them can do? We talked about some signs to watch out for, but is there a way of communication, somebody who's on the edge, perhaps before it gets to a really dark space, if they can be pulled out of it, if some kind of conversation or change in attitude at home will also help, especially with young adults?
I think there's multiple aspects to it, right? I think the first step is to show up. Right, to show up and say, hey, I'm here to listen to you. Because I think for a lot of young people, we tend to think of suicide as this very impulsive act. But for most people, research has shown that it's been a long time that they've been thinking about it, they've been planning about it before they make that decision to actually act on it. So for those who are around you, if you're noticing that something's not right with someone, reach out and just talk to them, right? And it's not just about having that first conversation, because a lot of times if I came and talked to you and said, hey, you know what, you don't seem okay to me, I might get defensive. I might take a step back and say, no, I'm okay. You don't need to be worried about me, right?
So that's what happens to a lot of people. So what does one do next?
True. So a lot of it, I think, is about keep showing up, right? I often ask people that, hey, have that first conversation, but let them know I'm going to check in on you in 2 or 3 days again, right? So you're letting them know that I'm here. If it's tomorrow that you want to talk to me, reach out, or in 3 days, I'm going to check in on you again to see how things are, right? Okay. Or we're going to make a contract that, hey, in 1 week, if things aren't looking better, can I help you find someone that we can talk to? Because a lot of times it's about seeking help, right? And we don't always know who we want to go and talk to, or who's the right psychologist or counselor, or how do I find one? Right. It's about enabling that process as well.
I think what we've had today is just the beginning of a conversation. This should just be a trigger point for you to start this communication in and around your circles, and perhaps then let experts take over. And that was the whole objective of doing this program as well. It is World Suicide Prevention Day, so I hope we've done our bit in bringing you that bit of information and that bit of awareness. That's all we could pack in this episode. We'll see you again in next FYI. Bye for now.